So when we talk about economic environment of business, there are basically three uh, aspects that needs to be taken into consideration to have an overall discussion on economic environment. First one is the factors affecting demand, then competitive forces and state of the economy. Now, recently, yesterday, the day before yesterday, Nirmala Sitharaman, our honorable finance minister, she came onto the television with certain packages, that leave encashment voucher, that a government employee will be given leave encashment, and if someone is getting leave encashment, then in lieu of that, that particular employee have to spend 3 times of the money that he has received from his or her employer. Now, what is this? Ultimately, all this economic stimulus or this 20 lakh crore package that was declared by Narendra Modi, our honorable Prime Minister, in the month of May, when he talked about or gave the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, it was all an exercise to stimulate demand in the economy. So when we talk about economic environment, first and foremost thing that comes to our mind, we talk about the demand. Then competitive forces, someone of you have rightly stated that competitive forces in the economy and state of the economy. Now we shall be discussing each one of them one by one. Now when economic factors affecting demand, there are so many factors that affects demand. We have already discussed, and but there are two things that needs very careful attention, that what are the factors that affect demand. And before that, we need to know, or we need to understand the concept of demand. Now, what is demand? Anyone can just explain what is demand? Any one of you? What is demand?
So, demand is basically the want of the good in the market, like how much the quantity is required.
Okay, very good. So demand means want of the goods in the market. So for as myself is concerned, I want to buy helicopter. Will it contribute to the demand in the economy?
No, sir.
Why?
Sir, there are some factors which have to be considered when we are taking demand into consideration. That is the spending capacity of that individual, that he has available for spending. Also, at that particular time, like for which interval that person is trying to buy.
Got it. So when we talk about demand, in economics, demand have got a very special definition. Demand, it does not normally, in literature we may say that demand means desire, or it is the want or requirement of person. But in economics, demand have got a very specific meaning. Demand means effective demand. And now what is that effective demands? Two things must be there. One is the ability to buy, that, and second one is the willingness to buy. You have rightly stated that demand will be demand only when the person have the capability to buy that particular product, that is ability to buy, then only it will become a demand. Otherwise it will be just my wish. I wish to have a helicopter, I wish to have a chartered plane of my own, so that is just my wish, but that will not contribute to the demand. But if Mukesh Ambani wish to have a chartered plane, then it will be in demand, because he has the ability to buy that chartered plane, and second one is the willingness to buy. So willingness to buy, again it will be dependent on the two things. I want to buy a particular thing, so first thing is that the preference for the product and expectation about the future conditions. We'll come to that later on. So what is ability to buy? Ability to buy, it simply means capability, that one should have the capability to buy, or that financial muscle or financial resources or any other resources to buy that particular goods or services, then only it will be ability to buy. So it will start with the inquiry, and a lot of people are going to some of the showrooms and just inquire about the product and they came out. So that will not contribute to the demand, because they might have the willingness to buy a product. That's why they are inquiring about that. But looking at the price, they are just withdrawing their decision that okay, they will not buy it this season and they will buy it in another season, or not this year or the next year. So they are just inquiring and then they are withdrawing their decision. So that will not contribute to the demand, and because they do not have the ability to buy. But inquiry plus when it will be ultimately converted into transaction, then it will become demand, because they have the ability to buy, they have the necessary resources to buy the product. So in this cartoon, this pair of shoe, it's costing $399, but I'm willing to pay $400 for a pair of shoes. Means here there will be demand. But suppose if the same person is not willing to pay $400, suppose he is willing to pay $300 for that product. So the product is available, the person is available, the person is having willingness also to buy that product, but he is not ready to pay the required price, that is the $399. So hence it will not contribute to the demand in the economy, and then the demand will remain stagnant. Now the question is, does having money alone is sufficient to create a demand? So this is recently you must have seen a movie on Amazon Prime, Gulabo Sitabo. So there are two prime characters in this movie. One is the Mirza and second one is this Ayushmann Khurrana is playing a role of his tenant. Now what is the special about that? This person, Amitabh Bachchan, that is, he's playing the role of Mirza. He has the ability to buy but not willing to buy, because he's a very conjuice, miser type of person. So he has the ability to buy but not willing to buy. And this person, the tenant, he has the willingness to buy a lot of things, but he is not able to buy because he do not have money. And ultimately, both of them does not contribute to the demand in the economy in any way. So you must understand that two things are always essential to create demand in the economy. One, there should be ability to buy and willingness to buy, and both of them should be present in one person simultaneously, then only there will be demand. Okay, if a person has ability to buy but is not willing to buy because of any reason, and another person is have willingness to buy but he is not able to buy because he is not having resources, so ultimately both the situations will be there and it will not contribute to the demand. And if you look at the policies, economic policy of the government of any country, not only in India, maybe in USA or Russia or France or Pakistan or China, the policy of the government is always, not all the countries, most of the countries, like majority of the countries, the policy of the government is centered around how to create demand in the economy. Now, many students of mine, they ask a question like, sir, why America is such a big economy? Why America is so powerful, or why America is so prosperous? And there are many reasons for that, but one reason that why America is so prosperous, because USA or even Europe, most of the countries in Europe, they are basically huge consumers of the product. They are consumption driven economy, and since they are consumption driven, so there are a lot of avenues for production, because whatever you will be producing, that will be consumed. You need not to think about the market. You will not enter into any production, or you will not start any production or rendering services if you are not sure that whether your product will be sold into the market or not. So, but if there is a huge demand in the market, and you know that your whatever will be offered from your end, that will be consumed in the economy. So ultimately there will be demand in the economy, and then it will contribute to the growth in the economy. And that's why this all this reduction of CRR or SLR, or increase or decrease in the bank rate, or reverse repo rate, or then lending money to the people, public expenditure, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is giving money to the rural people, that guarantee of employment. All these public expenditures are made that so that money should flow from the government exchequer, and it should reach to the public so that people will have money, there will be liquidity in the market, and once there will be liquidity in the market, and once there will be people have the money, requisite money in their pocket, they will start spending, and if they will start spending, there will be demand in the economy. Got the point? So demand is very important aspect when we talk about the economic environment. So we'll talk about some of the government policies later on at the end of this class, how government is trying to create demand in the economy. Okay, in 1997, the entire East Asia was facing a severe crisis. There was a depression-like situation in 1997-98. The Thailand official currency, the Thai baht, it was devalued to such an extent that it was just half of that Indian currency at that in the year 97 to 99. Reason because there was a depression in economy, and this depression has also started affecting India. But at that time, the ruling government, they have taken a very smart decision how to create demand in the economy. And what they did, they started a very massive project of Golden Quadrilateral, that connecting all the four corners of the India. And when this Golden Quadrilateral was started, so there was a demand, there was a huge public expenditure, that government flow of money from the government exchequer to the general public, and hence there will be a demand of concrete, there will be demand of cement, there will be demand of iron steel, there will be demand of other equipments, machines, and as a result, India was not affected during that time in 97-98. Similarly, in 2008, when there was a global crisis, great financial crisis, global crisis was there, entire world was facing the crisis. India was not hit by that crisis only because we had the then administrators, the rulers have taken sufficient measures to create or maintain demand in the economy. So demand was there, and that's why we could escape this situation of financial crisis. But recently, during the corona, because of this imposed lockdown, the demand was all of a sudden curtailed. How? Because see, when there will be complete lockdown, you will not be going out with your scooter or your motorcycles or your automobiles. Hence, you will not be buying petrol, you will not be going to any restaurants, you will not be going to any cinema halls. And as a result, there is no demand. Though you are willing to go out, you are willing to watch movie, you are willing to have a party with your friends, but that willingness was there, but the government has imposed certain restrictions that you cannot spend, and ultimately all of a sudden demand was completely reduced down to the level of almost zero. And that's why it was reflected in the first quarter report of the Indian economy, that Indian economy, it has retarded to at the rate of 23.9, almost 24%, there was shrink in the Indian economy, because there was no demand in that first quarter. April, May, total lockdown, there was no demand because you are not allowed to go out, and if you're not going out, there will be no consumption, no demand, and hence our entire economic activity will be slowed down, stopped. So demand is very important aspect if we talk about economic environment. Is that clear? Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any question
Yes,
after
sir.
this?
Sir, during lockdown, some of the products are in demand, like FMCG products.
Yeah, so that's why FMCG product, agricultural product, they were in demand. So everything is relative. I'm not saying that, that's why I told that the demand was almost near to zero. It was not absolute zero. There was demand for food products, there was demand for hand sanitizers, there was demand for medicines. So there was demand, and that's why otherwise Indian economy would have shrinked to the extent of 30-35%. But there was some demand in these sectors, and that's why we could, if you just go through the report minutely, you will find that agriculture have grown at the rate of 3 to 4%, something more than 3%. So there was a demand in the agriculture, there was demand in the medicine, and that's all these 2 or 3 sectors, they have contributed in reducing the deficit. Otherwise, our deficit would have been more than 30%. Got the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good.
Any
Thank
other
you, sir.
question? Okay. Now, willingness to buy. One was the ability to buy. Second one is the willingness to buy. And if someone spends more than the ability, then what will happen? Suppose amdani athani and kharcha rupaiya. So if someone ability is to just 50 paise and that person is spending more than that, what will be the consequences? First consequences is that obviously there will be huge demand in the economy, and though philosophically or ideologically or ethically it may not sound good, but from the perspective of economist, short-term economist, monetary economist, this is a very good sign so far as the economic prosperity is concerned. And if there is amdani athani and kharcha rupaiya, there is every possibility that economy will grow, because entire, if you just look at the spending pattern of USA, entire USA is running on the credit card. It's a credit card economy. So that's amdani athani and kharcha, because in the very previous slide I told that we need a consumption economy. Consumption is the main driver of economic growth. So though it sounds not very good ideologically or ethically, but from the perspective of economics, because economics is a very crude subject, very cruel, it is a very crude reality, so it is good. And that's why this credit card will be there to facilitate you, and that will increase your ability to buy. So you have the willingness, but you do not have the ability, so just increase these loans and the credit cards, and these loans and credit cards will facilitate in increasing your capability, and ultimately there will be a demand in the economy. So willingness and ability to buy together, both of them will create demand, and that's effective demand in the economy. Got the point? Now, what are the factors that affect the willingness to buy? So the preference for the product. So what the preference for the product, you know it. What is the product that is preferred by the consumer? Now, when we were the small kids, there was a black and white television, but later on these black and white televisions were replaced by the color television. Now color television were replaced by the flat screen television. Now there was no problem absolutely with the flat screen television or the color television, but all of a sudden this LCD or the wall hanging televisions or the monitors, they came into the market, and all of a sudden preference of the product, people have started tilting towards this big screen television sets, and that's why there was a demand for those particular television sets. And now, because all those and this old type of television sets are now absolutely obsolete from the market. So that is the preference for the product. Preference, the life was very comfortable and life was very cool when there was no mobile phone, but all of a sudden mobile entered into the market, and it has become one of the essential commodity now, and that's why now it's a preference for the product. Now when mobile phone was also all right, but now this smartphone entered into the product, entered into the market, and people have started opting for the smartphones. So the preference of the people, it keeps on changing. It keeps on changing, and any marketeer who will be able to understand the preference of the people, what the people will prefer in the coming days, and start manufacturing accordingly, that particular manufacturer or the marketeer will be a leader in the market. Next is the expectation about the future conditions. Now what will be the future conditions? So when the lockdown was announced, prior to that, when this coronavirus have started knocking the door of India, at that time there are certain manufacturers, certain marketers in India, they have started manufacturing these hand sanitizers. Some of the automobile companies, they have stopped manufacturing cars because they knew that there is going to be a lockdown, and prior to this lockdown there was a slowdown in this automobile sector. So they started making ventilators on the furnace on which they used to make automobiles. So that's why they have anticipated earlier, and now when the lockdown was announced and the coronavirus hit Indian economy, those companies like Tata Motors or this Ashok Leyland Motors and even ITC started manufacturing hand sanitizers, and they are winners. And if in the current normal, if you see that all the businesses are going down and down because of this lockdown and the imposed coronavirus threat, but one business out of many businesses, one business is continuously going up. Why? That is the automobile, two-wheeler and four-wheeler segment. Because earlier the people who used to travel on a public transport, now they are afraid of opting for a public transport, and now they are preferring to have their own vehicle, at least two-wheeler, so that they can avoid crowd and they can maintain social distancing and they can remain safe. So that is the new normal, and that is expected, and in future this kind of business will grow up. IT companies have grown substantially. These OTT platform companies like Amazon Prime or Netflix or Sony Live, these companies have done tremendous business during this lockdown. So because they have anticipated in advance what may be the future conditions. So accordingly they started manufacturing their product, and that have contributed to the willingness to buy. Now competitive forces. In one of our classes, we have already discussed about Porter's 5-force model, that is diamond analysis, 5 factors. What are the factors that drive the competitive, drives the future of an industry? So business firms operating in the environment are competing to acquire the bigger share of customers' income. So all these businesses, whether it is a cellular company or medicine company or automobile company or FMCG company, if I say all of them are present in the market to have a bigger share in your pocket, and all of them are competing with each other कि कौन तुमको ज़्यादा तुम्हारे जेब से पैसा निकाल सकता है. So that is the competitive forces. Now competitive forces, there are 4 utilities of competitive forces. One is the competitive force itself, sales promotion, product differentiation, and customer services. These are the 4 dimensions of competitive forces. Now let us discuss one by one. What is competitive force? So competitive forces competing with each other within the same industry. The companies or the marketeers or the suppliers, they are competing with each other to have a greater share in the customer's total expenditure, or the greater share, bigger share in the market, and that's why they are competing. Now this competition may be of different type. Some of the competitions are like competitive strategy, like red ocean strategy or frontal attack. Like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, it's a frontal attack. They are fighting with each other. This head-on collision. Both of them are giant in their giant companies, and they are competing with each other. They have huge resources, and they are doing that. But when we talk about Nirma and Hindustan Lever, Surf was a brand of Hindustan Unilever, and Nirma was a small player in that market. So when we talk about Nirma and Surf, Nirma was not at all competitive when we consider it in case of this Hindustan Lever. So what competitive strategy Nirma has adopted? Nirma have adopted guerrilla marketing, that it will not directly compete with Hindustan Lever. Hindustan Lever said that the brand Surf, but it will adopt guerrilla marketing, and that a complete case study on Nirma washing powder, how Nirma adopted guerrilla strategy, and it has taken a very strong market share in a detergent market. So that was another market. One kind of competitive force is that blue ocean strategy. It's another kind of competition. What is blue ocean strategy? When the ocean will be blue, that there will be market, but there is no direct competition, so there is no injury to any of the players. And if there is no injury of the players, so market will not, the ocean will not become red, and it will remain blue. Now what is that? These smart companies, they do not compete with their competitors, rather they make them irrelevant. Now how? One example, the pioneer of mobile phone in the world, it's Motorola. Motorola was the first company who have manufactured mobile phone device. But now, if you see the market, you will find there are Vivo, then Samsung, and then Nokia, and then Redmi, and so and so and so and so many iPhone. All these things are there, all these markets phones are there, but there is no Motorola in the market. Now, what Motorola did is Motorola was Motorola killed by this new entrants in the market? No. Motorola, they have invented a Bluetooth technology, and that Bluetooth was patented by them, and now it is such an important innovation that whatsoever will be your mobile phone, whether you are using Samsung or iPhone or Nokia, you will be requiring what? Bluetooth, and that Bluetooth will be provided by Motorola. So now Motorola is not competing with Nokia, Motorola is not competing with Samsung, Motorola is not competing with iPhone, but Motorola is becoming such a giant that whosoever will be selling mobile phones, Motorola will be there inside everyone. Like Intel inside, whosoever's monitor, whosoever's processor computer you purchase, whether it is Microsoft or IBM or SCL or HP, but the chip will be of Intel. And still, though ABD processors have entered into the market, but the chip, it is 70% of the computers are still having that Intel processors. Now, when we talk about these competitive forces and all these different case studies, one thing is clear, that the existing players, they always try to create some kind of barriers to the new entrants, and that is the effectiveness of a competitive force. If I am competitive, what kind of barrier I can create for my new entrants? Now, recently Mahabharat was telecasted on news on this Doordarshan during the lockdown, and you must have witnessed these two characters, Karn and Arjun. Now, Karn and Arjun, they are the two forces who are competing with each other. Now, when Arjun was declared by his Guru Dronacharya that he is the best Dhanurdhar archerist in the world, now who has challenged him? It's Karn, it's a competitive force. No, he is not the best. I am challenging him. But immediately a barrier was created that inside this Rangabhumi, only those who belongs to the king's dynasty or Chhatri or some Chhatri, only they can enter and they can perform this test. So that entry barrier, immediately one entry barrier was created, that even howsoever qualified you are, howsoever talented you are, but an entry barrier will be there, and once you cross that entry barrier, then only you will be allowed to show your talent or perform. And immediately what Duryodhan did, he declared him king of one piece of land. That okay, I am declaring him the king of Angadesh. So now what? Entry barrier was crossed. So entry barrier, then entry barrier crossed, then another entry barrier. Similarly, these companies, they also, like Motorola was a company which has created entry barrier. Then some of the companies, they create entry barrier through branding, through advertising, that they have created such a huge brand that that brand itself will be an entry barrier. Just to tell you that last month I was roaming in some of the countryside of Allahabad, and with some of the villagers I talked, and I was talking, and I just told them that if I supply you a motorcycle, if I give you a motorcycle which is of 150 cc at the cost of rupees half of the price that is available in the market, okay, but there will be no brand for that. So will you buy it? Immediately, नहीं साहब वो कौन खरीदेगा? तो क्या खरीदोगे? सर पल्सर खरीदना है, स्प्लेंडर खरीदना है, हीरो होंडा खरीदना है, टीवीएस का बाइक खरीदना है. Now what is there? I was just trying to study that the brand was such a strong entry barrier for a new entrant. So anybody whosoever will be entering into the market, they have to compete with the brand identity of the established brands, and that branding itself was an entry barrier. Got the point? So there's competitive forces. Now sales promotion, You already know it. Now this festive season is coming. Because of this corona, this festive season is not very attractive. But sales promotion, when this festive season will be there, so the sales or sales promotion, ek par ek free, buy one get one, buy one get two, this kind of sales promotion will be there just to attract more customers, just to become more competitive, and just to have a greater share in the market. Product differentiation. So already we have discussed a lot about this product differentiation. Like Motorola is an example of product differentiation. Reliance Jio, when prior to 2016, the entire cellular cell phone market was being competed by this Idea or Vodafone or Airtel or BSNL, that who will be having a greater share in the market. So Reliance Jio, it entered through Parachute, and he started selling 4G mobile phones, free data, free call up for the 3 months, and ultimately they have created a differentiation, product differentiation in the mind of the customer, that this is something different from the earlier service provider, and ultimately the entire industry have to suffer. So this kind of innovations are actually disruptive innovations. Anyway, but that product differentiation is there. Just the example that I was giving you, that this on the right side of yours, this is the logo of Pepsi, and on the left side it is a logo of some other cold drink. So this kind of product differentiation, either through your brand or through your product or through marketing or through technology, that kind of differentiation you have to create in order to survive, and that will be a part of your economic environment. Customer service is another dimension of competitive services, because if you have to remain competitive, you have to offer greater customer services, good customer services, then only you can remain competitive in the market. Maruti Suzuki, it is known for its customers, and that's why if you just do a study on the passenger car segment in India, you'll find that Maruti is still in a very dominating position. It's only because of its customer services, because wherever you go, this Maruti service station will be there, and this is one of the biggest product differentiation for the Maruti, and that's why it is having still the highest customers, the market share. Now the third aspect is the state of the economy. Third state in the economic environment is the state of the economy. Now, state of the economy, it may be the national income, per capita income, saving, investment, agriculture, distribution of income, export, import, foreign capital, payment, balance of payment position, transport and communication facilities, foreign exchange, expenditure, public expenditure, government expenditure, budgetary allocations, all these things may be there. So we'll discuss one by one. So rate of growth of national income and per capita income at current and constant prices, as well as at factor cost and market price. So GDP, the national income is basically calculated by GDP, and then per capita income. These are the two things that depicts the state of the economy, how good or bad the state of the economy is there. Now recently there is a debate on the television, in the newspaper, that economy is in a very bad shape. Now why economy is in a very bad shape? Because GDP is declining. So GDP is declining, so per capita income will be declining. When per capita income will decline, then disposable income, personal income, everything will decline. And then when personal income will decline, then there is no money available with the people to go out and spend, and hence the demand will also decline. So everything. So this is GDP is one indicator of economic growth. But at the same time, I must say that GDP itself, or GDP in itself, is a very crude measure of economic development. Now why? Why GDP is not a very crude measure of economic development? Anyone? What is the problem with GDP?
Sir, while reading GDP and economics, I discussed and what I found that in India, since because of our culture, like the women work that we do in our houses as part of our culture, it goes invisible and it does not get reflection in GDP. Like in countries which are developed, when women go out or they hire also, like nurses or maids or nannies, etc., such jobs. So there is a transaction and it gets recorded also. But in case of GDP, it does not get reflected. So that is also one problem.
Very good, very good. Exactly. So this is one problem, that GDP itself is not a very... Another example, since almost 1 month, I stopped using my car to come to my office. So I normally come by walk only. Now when I will be coming to office on foot, what are the things I am saving? I am saving on petrol. Is it?
Yes, sir.
And when I will walk continuously, then there is a possibility that I will remain fit. And if I will remain fit, I will spend less on medicine, I will spend less on insurance, then I will spend less on banking products like credit cards or short-term loans for my medical treatment. Is that so? So I'm trying to remain fit, and in the process of remaining fit, I'm walking, I'm coming to office on my foot, I'm not using my car, so I'm saving on petrol, and because I'm fit, I'm not spending on medicine, I'm not spending on insurance product, I'm not spending on smart this credit cards, etc. And that's why our GDP will be declining. Once I start using my car, I will be buying petrol every month, more petrol every month. I will remain ill, so I will need medication, I will need doctor's consultation, I will need insurance, health insurance policies, and in the process I will spend more, and I will be contributing to the GDP. Are you getting the point?
Yes, sir.
If a river is very clean, so the people nearby that river, they will be using that river water for their drinking, for their consumption, for everything. But if the river is made dirty because of industrial waste and anything, so we have to spend to clean that river, we have to spend to get good drinking water, so we need to install some water purifiers at our home. Then we need frequent consultation of the doctors, and we need medicines, and ultimately our GDP will be booming because such a huge expenditure we are making. But if we are not making that river dirty and we are keeping that river absolutely clean, so we are not contributing to the GDP of the country. Are you getting the point? So that's why I tell I am cooking food for myself, so I'm not contributing to GDP, because GDP is what? The market value of the total goods produced in the economy. So the food that I'm cooking, that is also goods produced in the economy, but since I'm cooking it for myself, there is no GDP added to the economy. But if I start cooking in my neighbor's house, and my neighbor, he starts cooking in my house, and both of them will be paying to each other, okay, you pay me 10,000 rupees and I will pay you 10,000 rupees. So ultimately there will be addition to the GDP of 20,000, but in reality there is no addition to the wealth of any person. So that's why GDP itself is a very crude measure of economic development, and that's why, do you know which country in the world have done away with the measurement of GDP and they have adopted Gross National Happiness Index? They are not calculating GDP, they are calculating GNH. Anyone, any idea?
Sweden.
Huh?
Sweden.
It's Bhutan. Bhutan is calculating gross national happiness. It is not calculating GDP. Okay. Now, rate of saving and investment in the economy. So, in the first part of my lecture, I told that Amdani, Athani and Kharja Rupaiya. So that will be giving a boost to the immediate consumption, But since there will be no saving, household saving, and since there is no household saving, so saving leads to the capital formation, and capital formation leads to the economic growth. So saving is very important. So that's why I use the term in the short run. But in the long run, Amdani, Athani and Kharcha Rupaiya, that model will not be sustainable for the economy, and that will not be good for the country. And that's why we need saving as well. And that's why from time to time, government of India or the government of any country, they give some kind of incentive to the people to save, either in the form of some tax rebates or some very attractive offerings. So they are giving this kind of savings. So increased saving, that will increase investment. Increased investment will lead to the increased capital stock. That because saving will convert it into investment. Investment will be invested in some capital stock, means equipments and machinery, and all those things will lead to the higher economic growth. And higher economic growth will also increase the income of the people. That will lead to the increased in the saving, and this circle will go on. And that's why Amdani, Athani and Kharcha Rupaiya model will no longer be sustainable. Agricultural and industrial production in the economy. So this is especially in the context of India, because still almost more than half of the population in India, they are dependent on agriculture. And you must be listening in the news, television news, that when there is a good monsoon, then there is a very feel-good factor in the economy, and the prospects that economy will be good in the coming days is very high. But when there is a not good monsoon in the economy, because still Indian agriculture is to a large extent, to a vast extent, dependent on the monsoon only, and then when there is no good monsoon, then agriculture also suffers, and because of agriculture, the income of the farmer, it also gets reduced, and since income is also reduced, so that also affects demand. Because go to the very first slide, because if there is less income, so though there is willingness to buy, but ability will fall, and when the ability to buy will come down because of the reduced income, so the demand will be affected, and demand will be affected. So the entire, by the now you must have understood that the entire economy or the game is of demand only, creating demand in the economy. So is the case with the industrial production. Distribution of income and wealth in the economy. So if there is a more disparity in the distribution of income and wealth of the country, there is a possibility that there will be no significant demand added in the economy, because only a handful of the people have money, and they will be spending, they will be creating demand in the economy, and another section of the people, because they do not have the ability to buy, because the resources are not distributed evenly in the economy, so they will be sufferers, and they will not be contributing to the demand, and ultimately the entire economy will suffer. So that's why, as a prudent policymaker, it is a duty of the government to make some policies so that the distribution of income and wealth in the country is distributed fairly and evenly to the masses. That not that everybody should be divided the entire wealth, but there should be adequate opportunity for everyone in the economy to earn and grow, so that they can also contribute to the economic growth and development. So that is also one part of the economic environment. Exports and import of the commodities. So till now, you know that more is the export, more is the foreign exchange that will be earning, and that will be good for our country, because the status of any country or the power of any country is nowadays in this global world is driven by how much foreign exchange and foreign reserve that country is having. Now entire world, even Russia, is looking after China. Why? Because China is having almost 10-12 times more foreign reserve than India have, and that's why it has more money. And since it is having more money, so everybody is listen to the person who is having more money, whether it is a person, individual, or at the country level. So that is volume of exports. But at the same time we must have to see that if we are exporting everything that we are producing, then if very little commodity is available for our own people for the domestic consumption, then that is also not good for the economy. An example is USSR. USSR, like United States of Soviet Republic, it was a country, and in 1991 it was dissolved into 16 countries because of the same thing, that it has a huge export, it has huge foreign exchange, but its own people have to wait for have to make a queue of 3 kilometer or 4 kilometer just to get 1 liter of milk at 4 o'clock in the morning in minus 22-degree temperature. So because they have exported everything and they have not thought of the well-being of their own people. So India, suppose we are the largest food producer in the world, and if we just export the entire food commodities that we are producing, so we have exported and definitely will be earning a huge foreign exchange, but our own people will start dying of starvation because whatever we have produced we have sold. Now we have nothing for our own consumption. Got it? So there has to be a trade-off between exports and the domestic consumption. Many people nowadays, this India-China face-off is there, so many people they make a comparison that China is having a very dominant position in the world market in terms of, so far as the exports are concerned, India's exports are not so high. But at the same time, I must say that India's growth story or India's growth is a domestic demand driven. On the other hand, China's growth is export driven. So China is much dependent on the rest of the world for getting its the required growth, but India's growth is domestic demand driven. So if something happens in the rest of the world, is not going to affect India in a way it will affect China or USSR because they are totally export driven economies. Development of transport and communication facilities in the economy. So in the very first class that I talked that I have taken on history of management thought, and you must have understood that how important is the development of transport and communication facilities in the country for the industrial revolution. So industrial revolution in England in 18th century was primarily ignited because of the invention of wheel, and recently the government of India, they have also, like our ex-Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in a statement he made that the growth of any nation or the development of any nation is dependent on the fact that how fast its wheel moves on the road. So that is, the transport and communication is very important for the economic development. Then foreign exchange reserve of the country, I already told you that how important is the foreign exchange reserve, and it is because of the foreign exchange reserve China is having such a dominant position in the world market. It is able to dominate even Russia. Government expenditure for infrastructure development in the country, I already told you that it is the government expenditure, public expenditure, that creates demand in the economy. And in our last class when we have talked about the role of government in business, so the role of government in business is with respect to the development of infrastructure in the country, and that is a very big role. And Professor John Fisher and Scott Levengood, they have wrote a book of Commanding Heights, that battle for the world economy. And in that book of Commanding Heights, they have stated that the future of any country in the world market, or the dominance of any country in the world market, is on the fact that how smartly and how efficiently government is making its public expenditure. So if government is doing huge public expenditure, so that will lead the country to achieve its commanding heights. In USA, normally we know that USA is a capitalist economy, so most of these investments are coming in the private sector, but you will be surprised to know that 46%, almost half of the total investment made in USA is made by the government. And because of its public expenditure, efficient and effective public expenditure, now USA is able to achieve its commanding heights. Rate of inflation prevailing in the economy. So if inflation is very high, so whatever the development work will be done by the government, it will be eaten out by the inflation. So there is a very essential need to control the inflation, so that whatever the development initiatives are taken by the government, it is actually making a difference in the economy. The example is Venezuela. Now in Venezuela, because of the inflation, the situation is like this. Now Venezuela is printing a currency note of 1 lakh rupees, 1 lakh of not rupees, that is Venezuelan currency. So one note will be of 1 lakh, and what is the value of that 1 lakh? To get 1 cup of tea and breakfast, you need to pay that note. So this is the level of deflation, inflation in the value of the currency of Venezuela, and that's why Venezuela is in a great crisis. You just search in the Google what is prevailing in, what kind of situation is prevailing in Venezuela, and you'll get to know that crisis. Similar condition was happened in Indonesia also in 1998. In the beginning I told that Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, they are all the neighboring countries, and in Indonesia also similar condition was $1 was equivalent to 20,000 rupees, and 20,000 of Indonesian rupee was required to buy 1 time of breakfast. So that was the level of devaluation of Indonesian. The name of the currency is rupiah. So Indonesian rupiah. So this is all about the economic environment of business, whatever we have discussed. So all the things are already known to you. So we have just made it formalized.